Hey guys, it's me, Affax here, and I have something to show you. This tutorial will be about creating a modular weapon system that is easily expandable. I will be splitting this video into 6 parts, with the 6th part having subparts. You can see all the timestamps on the screen right now. All the assets that are used in this video are free to use and download. But before we get into anything, I have something to tell. I'm almost at 200 subscribers, and it may be small for you, but it is a huge milestone for me. I'm so happy and glad about this, and it's only possible because of you guys. Thank you so much. 200 is so much more than the 100 subscriber goal I set for myself. I will try to get 500 subscribers by the end of the year. But remember to like, subscribe and comment something on this video. Without further ado, let's start coding. So, in part 1 I will be showing you how to get the project set up with the weapons and assets imported. So, we want to go to the asset store, wait it to load. When the asset store loaded, go to the search bar and type low poly FPS pack. And as you can see, there's the paid one, $150, or there's the free one, and we are gonna use the free one. So download it, and when you have downloaded, click on the import, and when you have this import screen, uncheck everything because we don't want everything, and go where there's components and drag down until there's meshes, as you can see. And these meshes are the actual models of the weapons, so just select guns because we only want guns here, and we are not done because we still want the material for this. So scroll down where you can see low poly FPS pack texture, click on that, we need that, and scroll up where there's materials and click on guns materials. So just import that. So part 2 we will add weapons to the scene, and when we imported the low poly FPS pack, there were 2 different guns or weapons. There was the assault rifle, and then there was the handgun pistol thing. I actually used this pistol in my grappling hook tutorial, so remember to check that out. But yeah, these are really good looking assets and they are free. There's only 2, but I can recommend buying the $150 pack because there are so many assets there and it's super good. So let's add the assault rifle first to the scene. Let's drag it there. And yeah, it's really small, so I would recommend before we actually even change anything, create an empty, call it assault rifle, reset the transform and drag it up, and then just drag the assault rifle on it and reset, and now we have the actual pivot point of the weapon, and change the scale to something like 2 because this looks much more normal to me. But before we even do anything else, we want to center the actual assault weapons, this part here, because we want to rotate the weapon on this point, but now it will rotate like this, as you can see, but we want to rotate it from here. So just drag this to somewhere here, check the position. No, we went over, so change it back, and now it is good. So now when we rotate, you can see it rotates from that one point. So now we have the assault rifle in the scene. We don't have a weapon class yet, but we want to make this the layer weapon, and no, this object only, don't change the child objects layer. The layer of this will be controlled by the weapon script we are gonna make. So now create a new folder called prefabs, and in prefabs add the assault rifle because we want to change the global settings here, like that. So yeah, we have the assault rifle now. I will just rotate it here. to look cool, like that. And now we want to add the pistol. So we need to do the same thing. Let's create a new empty called pistol, like that. Reset the transform, drag this up, and in the low poly FPS pack, drag in the handgun to be the child of the pistol. And remember, let's put this to 222 so it will be bigger. And let's center this part to be on the pivot point, and like that. Not quite, a little bit back, and maybe a little bit that way, a little bit more that way, and I think that is good. So now when we rotate, you can see the gun will rotate from that pivot point. So that is good. Now let's create a prefab from that so we can change the settings easily for all of our weapons. And let's just drag it somewhere here, like this. So that is it, part 2 done. We have imported the weapons, they are looking snazzy, and we can get to actually scripting the game. Now for part 3, we'll want to create 2 scripts called weapon, and we want to also create a weapon manager script with and we also want to create a weapon manager script with script and weapon manager. So for picking up and throwing stuff, we'll start off with editing the weapon class. So we'll start off by removing the default boilerplate code. Then I'll just tidy this script up by removing the unwanted imports. And to get us started, let's declare some variables so that we will use to make this class. So we want this thing, we want this public. So we want this public float throw force. Then we want throw extra force. This is for throwing upwards and this is for horizontally. Then we'll want the public float rotation force, and this will be applied when you throw the weapon, how fast it will rotate. Also, we want this header and stuff like public int weapon GFX layer. This will be used for looking with the weapons through the walls. So they won't be clipping, but I'll show you how to do that. Then we want the public game object weapon GFX, like that. And then we want them public collider GFX collider. Then we also want this private bool held. So this will be true if the weapon is being held and false if the weapon isn't being held. Then we also want this private rigid body RB. This is gonna be the rigid body of the weapon that is gonna be added, and those are the variables we need. So to get started, let's add a start function. And the rigid body equals game object dot add component rigid body. And now on the start, every weapon will have a rigid body, so they can affect they can interact with the environment. Then we want to set the rigid body mass to 0.1f, because if the boxes are 1, then how could a weapon be 1 too? And that's all for the start method. Now we'll start to make the pickup and drop functions. So to do that, we want public void pickup, like that. And then we want public void drop, like that. And for the pickup, we want also to have an transform weapon holder, and the actual weapon manager will pass on the weapon holder to our weapon class, so we can set our transform's parent to the weapon holder. Also, we want on pickup to destroy rigid body, because we don't want it to interact with the world anymore when you have picked it up. We want to set transform.local position to 0. This will reset the position of the weapon, and transform.local rotation to quaternion.identity. And quaternion.identity is like vector 3, but as Danny said, who even understands quaternions? So now we have set the actual transform positions, and we want the held to be true, so we want the weapon to be held, and then we want GFX collider.enabled to be false, because we don't want the weapons to actually collide with the world when you have picked them up. You can also not set this to false, but then you will hit boxes and it won't be fun. Also, before we write the drop function, we want to check for if we are being held. Then we want to return, because you can pick up a weapon that is being held right now, and copy this, because we are now gonna make the drop function, paste it in, and if we are not being held, we can't be dropped. It makes sense. So we want a rigid body, so just copy this. We want to create a new rigid body when we are being dropped, like that. Then we want a parent to be null, so we won't have a parent. Then held will be false, because nothing is being, and we are not being held anymore. We want to enable the GFX collider, like this, equals true, so enabled equals true. Then after we create the rigid body, we also want the drop function to have a transform player camera, like that. And for the player camera, we want the forward to be player camera dot forward, like that. So now let's set the rigid body dot velocity to forward, not vector 3 forward, just forward times throw force. Also, we want to set the rigid body dot velocity plus equals vector 3 up, so it's the upwards direction, times throw extra force. So this will throw it to in any direction you are looking in with the same force, and this will just throw it up, so it will feel like CSGO throwing. We also want to set the rigid body dot angular velocity, because that is the velocity on how much the actual object is rotating. So we want this to be random dot on unit sphere times rotation force, like that. And that's it. We can go back to assault rifle. We have the force here and GFX collider. So we need to add a collider to everything. So just click on every object and add a mesh collider on them. And there's, as you can see, there's 4 objects with mesh colliders, and they need to have convex on. But there's only one GFX collider here where you can put it. So go back to the script, change the collider to an array and GFX colliders. Now create a for loop, or for each loop, and the collection is GFX colliders, and the variable name is collider, and just collider.enabled equals false. And it might say that there's a collider already in the component, so let's just rename this to call and set call to enable. And also copy this, paste it here, and collider.enabled equals true. And that's it. So go back to the game set the colliders to be these. So just drag them in here on the GFX colliders and it will add them to the list. Now if you play, you can see that the weapon has colliders and you can push it like that and it works. So it's fully functional. So now we want to open the weapon manager, so double click on that and open the script. And remove the boilerplate. And also remove the unnecessary imports. We want to add some variables in weapon manager too. So we want to add a public float pickup range. This will be the range that you can pick up from. Public float pickup radius. So this will be how big the actual pickup sphere is. I will show you how that works in the game after we've created this. Then we want this public int weapon layer, so we can actually raycast it to the weapon and actually see what weapon it is. And we also want a public transform weapon holder and a public transform player camera, like that. And we also want two private variables, like private who is weapon held and a private weapon held weapon, like that. Now the variables are done and let's create the actual script. So this script will only use the update loop. So create an update function like that and create an if is weapon held and create an else. So let's start with the if. So if a weapon is held and if input dot get key down, and we want the Q. So changing the actual key here this will be the drop key. So you can add H, so you can drop from H and Q, but I'll just use Q. Or if the key is down and held web, and so if the key is down, we can add this function. So held weapon dot drop, and let's add the player camera like that, and also held weapon equals null because we are not holding a weapon anymore, and is weapon held equals false, like that. And now in the else function we want to check for else if input dot get key down, and this will be E. So key code E will be the pickup key. So I want to pick up the weapons with E and drop them with Q. So now let's actually code the picking up of the weapon. So we have already checked the E key, yeah. So create a var hit list equals new raycast hit, but not an object but an array, and the size of the array should be 256. Then create a var hit number equals physics dot capsule cast non-allocation, like that. I will explain all the stuff I will write here later on, but just write player camera dot position, player camera dot position plus player camera dot forward times pickup range. So this is the range. Then pickup radius, then player camera dot forward, and finally give it the hit list, like that. So the point 1 is where the actual capsule starts, point 2 is where the capsule ends, The radius is how thick the capsule is, and the direction is just in what direction the capsule is going, and the hit list is the list. And we need to create this by ourselves, and I think 256 objects is enough for a scene. But if you have a bigger scene, you should maybe increase this, because if there's more objects than 256 in front of you, then it might get a little buggy and it might not even pick up. So now let's create a real list equals new list, and we want the system collections generic list like that, and it's a raycast hit list like that. Then make a for loop, int I equals 0, I equals hit number, this is the amount of objects hit, and I++. And I'll just make this a var. Then var hit equals hit list I, like that. Then add a if hit dot transform dot game object dot layer. If it isn't the weapon layer, we'll just return, because we don't want to actually raycast the weapon or raycast anything that isn't a weapon. And then we want if hit dot point equals vector dot 0. Then real list dot add hit. I will explain why it goes like this. And then else if physics dot raycast. The starting position is player camera dot position, hit dot point, no, not get info, hit dot point minus player camera dot position. Then we want out var not behavior, out var hit info, and hit dot distance plus 0.1f. And after that we also want to check that the hit info dot transform equals the actual hit dot transform, like that. And real list dot add hit. So what does this do? So it will check the hit dot point, and if it's 0, you can clearly see the weapon, and there's no, you can see the center of the weapon, so you don't need to actually check if the hit point is behind the wall. So if you can clearly see it, we just add it to the list, because yeah, it's clearly there. But if we don't see the center of the mass or the pivot point, then we'll check with the raycast straight towards the point we hit, that if you can actually even see the weapon. And if we can see it and the hit, so if it doesn't hit the weapon, it doesn't run this, but if it's hits the weapon, we can run this. Now check for the if real list dot count equals 0, and then return. Now we'll need to create a helper function, a private float get distance to, and this will be a this will take a raycast hit init, then return vector free dot distance, and that's player camera dot position, and the other one is hit dot point equals 0. And then if the hit dot point is 0, then we want to compare to hit dot transform dot position, but if it's not 0, then just hit the point, like that. That's the helper function done. So after we have the real list, we want to sort the list so the number one object is number one in the list is the closest object to our view. So to do that, we want to make real list dot sort, or we want to sort the list. We want to add a function hit1 or variable hit1, variable hit2, and this will be a function that returns a number 0, 1 or -1. So we want the distance 1 to be or not that one, this one, to be get distance to, hit 1, copy that line, and we want distance 2 to be a distance to hit 2. And now we want to return math.abs distance 1 minus distance 2 is less than 0.001f, 0, distance 1 is distance 2, minus 1, 1. So what does this do? This part of the code checks if the numbers are almost identical. If they are identical, then they should be close in the list. But if they aren't identical and distance 2 is bigger than distance 1, so distance 1 is closer, you want it to be closer to the start, so you give it minus 1. But if distance 1 is bigger than distance 2, you want it to be further away from the start, so it's not the closest object to your screen. Now we want to add is weapon held to true. Held weapon equals real list 0, because that's the first one and the closest one. Transform.get component weapon, like that. And we want the held weapon.pickup and weapon holder, like that. So that's it for this part, and that's it for picking up weapons. It's done. So save the asset and go back to your Unity scene. So when you've opened Unity, create a new empty under main camera and call it weapon manager. Add a script called the weapon manager that you just created. Create an empty weapon holder. And in the weapon manager, you want to track the weapon holder there. You want to track main camera here. Pickup range, let's say it could be 2. And radius 0.25. And also weapon layer. So the weapon layer will be 10. Like that. And that's done. And now we need to check for the weapon holder. So now if we take a weapon like this assault rifle and make a new copy and center it or like put it as a child of weapon holder and reset it, you can see that in this position the weapon doesn't look right and it shouldn't be there. So to fix this, we want to take the weapon holder and actually move it so it looks more normal, like that. And as you can see, you can still, well, you can see it because it's not fully there. So you need to drag these different values to test what works for you. And for me, variables or numbers like these work. So I'll just drag this weapon here. And I think this is a good position for my weapon, like this. So just remove the assault rifle and you've done. But before you play, I forgot and I made a mistake. So as you can see here, you shouldn't return, but you should continue. Because if you return, the whole function stops, but if you continue, it just continues to the next I. So save that, go back to Unity, and if you play, you can actually pick up the weapon now, as you can see. And if you press Q, you can throw it. Like it should work, like a good boy. But as you can see, the weapon is clipping, and that is no good. We don't want the weapon to clip. It can like clip here, that doesn't matter, but we don't want it to clip when we are holding it. So to fix this, leave play mode. When you've exited play mode, you need to go back to your script, your weapon, open your weapon script. And as you can see, we are not using weapon GFX layer or weapon GFX, but we need to fix this. So from the game object, make it to an array, and weapon GFX is like that. And now we need to copy the loop. So just make a copy of it. Let's name this GFX, and not GFX colliders, but weapon GFXs. And on the GFX, set the gfx.layer equals weapon gfx layer on pickup. But when you drop it, you want to set it to 0. So just copy the for loop and set it to 0. And go back to Unity. So once you are back in Unity, just go to your assault rifle, like here, and in the weapon GFXs, just drag all of these visuals here. We need to make some changes so our weapon can stay on top. Here, select your main camera, and under cooling mask, remove our weapon GFX layer. And now if we play, you can see that our weapon there's no weapon. It's invisible. But if you throw it, it comes back to life. But it is actually there. But you can see it because we removed the layer. So how to fix this is to duplicate the camera, copy, paste. Now we want to remove the weapon manager of the new camera, rename it to weapon camera, remove the audio listener because we don't want the audio listener. Then select def only from the clear flags, def only, and then cooling mask, nothing, and weapon GFX. So this will only show weapon GFX. But as you can see, the post-processing is done 2 times, and we don't want that. So how to fix that is go back to your main camera and just remove the layer from here. And if you play now, you can see that it doesn't work. And there's one reason for that. Because weapon camera's def is -1. So change it to 1 and play. And as you can see, if I pick up the weapon, you can see it through the walls and there's no problem. And also the effects are still here, so it doesn't matter. Okay, that's good. But maybe we want to change the FOV of the weapon, and I will do that. So to do that, we want to go to the weapon camera and change the field of view. So let's try 55 and play. And if we pick it up, you can see the weapon is much smaller and closer for me, and this is good. So here we can see that it's maybe too hidden, the weapon. So while we are still in play mode, go to your weapon holder and just change some settings here, like that and that and that. This is completely optional, but I usually like that the FOV is less than the actual player FOV, and 70 now. You can also change the FOV more, so if you want something like 50, you can do that. And I think I like 50. And I'll just make some final changes on the weapon holder, like this, something like this, and this, and this. So when you are done with your changes, just right click and copy component, close play mode, and paste component values. And we also want to change the weapon camera's field of view too, because nothing saves in play mode. So if we play now again, you can see that the weapon is correctly there and you can see it through walls. It's that easy. So you are done with part 3. Yeah, you are done with part 3, picking up, throwing. So next will be actually shooting, and then will be UI, and then some next. So see you in the next part. So for part 4, shooting, we want to open the weapon script right here. And we want to add some public variables. So make some space for them and add public int max ammo. So this will be the actual capacity of your magazine. You can change this to anything. Then you want to add public int shots per second. So how many times per second you can shoot, or you could say that's the delay you can shoot. Then public float reload speed. this will be in seconds on how much time it takes to reload. Public float hit force. So this is how much your weapon will actually hit the boxes or any other rigid body, because this will check for rigid bodies, not layers. Public float range, so how far this weapon can shoot. And that's all for the public variables. And we can also make some headers, so it's easier to organize. Throwing, shooting, and I usually label the miscellaneous as data. We also want some private variables, so just create a private bool reloading, another one for shooting, and that's it. And also we want a private int ammo. So that's all for the private variables. And now we want to make an update loop. So this will be our first update loop and the only update loop we are gonna make anymore. So in the update loop, we want to check if we are being held. So if we aren't being held, so if not held, just return, because we don't want to run anything if we are being held. And then check for if input get mouse button 0. And we also want to make another public bool, actually public bool tapable. I will explain this, what this does. So tapable, and this means that if you can't just press down the button, you have to actually click every time you want to shoot. So if it's tappable, get mouse button down, or if it's just you can press down get mouse button. And not shooting, so there's no cooldown, and not reloading, then you can actually shoot and will reduce ammo by minus. And then we want to make a private void shoot. So private void shoot, we will run that here. And we also want to make a coroutine for reloading and shooting cooldowns. So private enumerator shooting cooldown, like that, and just copy it, make a new line, and just call this reload cooldown, like that. So in shooting cooldown, we want to set shooting equals true. Then we want to wait for seconds. 1 second divided by shots per second. And after we have waited that time, shooting equals false, so you can shoot again. Also for reloading, just copy this, change this to be reload time or reload speed, and just put reloading equals true and shooting equals false. And in here we want to start a coroutine. So if ammo is less or equal to 0, so you have 0 ammo, you want to do a reload cooldown. But if you still have ammo, just do a shooting cooldown, like that. Sorry guys, I forgot something in the tabbable here. So just cut this and put it in a bracket. This will come useful in later, but I forgot this actually, and I already made the other stuff. So just fix this and you'll be good. And we also want to check for if input get key down r key code .r, like that, and is not reloading already, and ammo is actually less than max ammo, so we have used an ammo. Then you can just make this then you can just start a coroutine called reload cooldown. But now we want to actually make the shooting. So in pickup, we also want, instead of this, we also want the transform player camera, and we want to make a private transform player camera, and just set the player camera to be player camera, like that. So the variable we passed, we want to set the private variable as that. When we shoot, we want to check for if physics.raycast, and this will check for start at player camera.position, player camera.forward, out, hit info. So this is the hit info, if we even hit, and range. And if we don't actually hit anything, so this will return true if we hit, but if we don't hit, we'll just return. And we want to get the rigid body of the object, so rb equals hit info.transform.get component, rigid body. But there always isn't a rigid body, like the ground doesn't actually have any physics. So if rigid body equals null, just return, because we don't want to add any force. And then rigid body.velocity, we want to add velocity to it. So player camera dot forward times hit force. And that's it. That's shooting. And we still need to go to weapon manager and weapon holder and player camera. And that's for it with shooting. So go back to your Unity project. When the Unity project has loaded, go to your assault rifle, and I think a good amount for ammo for assault rifle is 25 or 30, but I like 25. I think 20 shots per second is enough. Then reload speed, I think 1.25 seconds is enough. And for hit force, 3.5. This is a lot. You can always tone it down, but this makes it a little bit more wackier. And for range, I think 20. And we want it to be fully auto, so don't check this tappable. And we also want to save the settings for all assault rifles, so apply all, like that. We are not setting the ammo, so when we've done reloading, we want to set the ammo to max ammo, and in the start function, you want to set the ammo to max ammo. So go back and press the play button. So now, as you can see, you can shoot the boxes like that, and reloading or anything doesn't seem really, you can see it right now because there's no UI. We are gonna make UI next, but for now you have to just feel it. So as you can see, I can shoot now, but if I press reload, I cannot shoot until it has reloaded. So that's shooting. It's that easy. It's literally that easy. And we can even bowl with this big box like that. So exit play mode, and you've done. That's part 4. So in part 5 we are gonna create the UI. So go back to the scene view and create a new UI and canvas. So just double click on the canvas, and as you can see, it has created us a canvas, but it's not done. You want to change from constant pixel size to scale with screen size. And for these, you want to set them to 3840 times 2060. So this one will be the resolution of 4K, and you also want to set the match to 0.5. This is hard to explain, but this will keep the UI crisp and good looking for all devices and the same size. So when you are back in the editor window, click on the 2D option, and we first want to create the actual crosshair. So we want to create the crosshair by right clicking, UI and image. So you can see that the image is centered, but it's a little bit big. And I've also created this simple circle image, and drag the circle image to the source image or any other reticle image. You can use anything, but I'll just use a simple circle. I'll just name it to crosshair and make it 25 and 25, or maybe 15 times 15. So I think that's good. So that will show the center of the screen for us, so it's easier to aim. But we also want to see the ammo. So how to add that? Go back to the scene view, create a new UI text mesh pro. You will see the pop-up that opens. Just click import text mesh pro essentials, and you don't need the examples and extras. So just close this. Now you want to open this anchor presets and press shift and click on this one, as you can see. So we want to set the position X, and also we don't want to make it a child of crosshair, so just put it as a child of canvas. Name it ammo text, like that. Then for the position X, -200, and position Y 200. And as you can see, it's really tiny, but we want to change this to be bottom and right, auto size on, maximum to 999, and you can make it bigger as you want, but I'll just change settings here. So I think the height should be 100 and the width should be something like 1000. Just make the width big, because now when we change the height, you can see that it will change the size of the actual text. So I'll set something like 150, and you can check this by 10 ammo remaining, and I think that's a good size. So just remove everything there, like that. Save it. Now you've created all the needed things here. So go back to your script and go to the weapon manager right here. Make a public text mesh pro text ammo text, and go to the weapon script, and in the pickup function right here, add a text mesh pro text and ammo text right here. We want to create a private variable named private text mesh pro text ammo text, and just set this ammo text as the ammo text we are passing here. So ammo text equals ammo text. Go back to the weapon manager and just set this to also give ammo text. Go to the weapon class, and where you can see actually pick up. So you want to write ammo text dot text equals ammo plus these dividers plus max ammo. Then just copy that. You want to also go down here and add ammo text dot text equals nothing. So when you drop the weapon, it will actually show no text there. So scroll up, go to the shoot, or not, to here, update, and you want to paste this, and same for reload cooldown, you want to paste the same thing here. So now save this, and also here you want to set this to say reloading. So when you are reloading, the ammo text will say reloaded. So save the script and go back to Unity. And once Unity has compiled the changes, just clear the chat. But before we press the play button, go to the main camera, weapon manager, and click on that. And we want to just set the ammo text to be ammo text, or you can just drag it from here. So now when you press the play button, there's no text on the bottom right corner, but when you pick it up, you can see it's 25, and when you shoot, it goes down, and when you're reloading, it's reloading. And if you reload mid ammo, you can still see that it sets it correctly. And that's how easy UI is. Isn't this easy, like guys? Like you can make a cool shooting game super easy, like that. So that's part 5 done, and now let's get on with the extras that will make your weapon feel and weapon system feel extra neat and extra good. So to add reload animations, go to your weapon script again and create a private float. So I can just copy this line and name it to rotation time, like that. Then we want to go to the reload countdown and we want to set the rotation time to 0f, so it starts at 0. Go to update, and here, if we are reloading, then make these brackets. Then we want to increment spin time or rotation time here, rotation time by time dot delta time, like that. And then we want our spin delta to be this. Just copy this cosine thingy, like that, and just set not time but actually rotation time divided by not animation time but reload speed, like that. And then we just want to transform dot local rotation equals quaternion dot Euler new vector 3 and spin delta times 360 0 0, and that's it. That's reload animations. It's that easy. And save your script and go back to Unity. So when Unity has compiled your script, you don't have to actually change any settings. Just press the play button, pick up the weapon, shoot and reload. As you can see, that's reload animations. It's super simple and super fun. And let's just bowl once again because it's super fun. And there's actually 10 boxes by accident. I'll just place them randomly and I got 10 boxes, so that's a strike. Yay, I got all of them down. Go away, box, nobody likes you. Yeah, roll there. Yeah, roll the fuck away. So that's reload animations done. Now we want to add shooting kickback to the weapon. So when you shoot, the weapon actually moves backwards. So now exit play mode, and to add that, we want to go back to the weapon class. We want to go up, and we want to add 2 public variables, public float kickback force and the public float kickback smooth. And that's all the variables you need. And then go down to your shoot function and then write this transform dot local position minus equals new vector 3 0 0, but we want to affect the z with kickback force, like that. And that's applying the force, but we also need to reset the force. So we actually want to change this whole function. So just cut it, write if time is less than animation time, then we can run this. But if not, we want to set the transform.local rotation to identity, like that. And then we want to add scoping. And then we want to add transform.local position equals vector3.lerp transform.local position, and then we want to add vector3.0 0 because we want to lerp it to 0, and we also want to add smooth, so kickback smooth times time dot delta time. And I'll actually just rename this to reset smooth because we are gonna use this for scoping and if it's kickback smooth, it won't make sense for scoping. So just save the function and go back to Unity. Once Unity has compiled your changes, go to your assault rifle, set your kickback force to something like 0.075 and reset smooth to 11.75. I've tested these numbers and they feel good. So when you press play and pick up the weapon, you can see that there's actually kickback when you shoot. So let's just shoot this like that, and that's kickback. It's, as I say, it's that easy. I wish I would have known it would be this easy when I started. I created some really bad weapons and weapon systems, but yeah, that's why I'm making this tutorial, to enlighten you guys. So that's it. That's for kickback. And now we want to add something really cool, and that would be sway, and after that scoping. So sway is when you rotate and the weapon follows you, and that will make a lot more sense when we actually create it. So we don't want to create the sway in the weapon class. We want to create it in weapon manager class. So go up and we want to add some public variables. So we want to add public float sway size and public float sway smooth. So I'll smooth how much it will smooth it, and we also want to add public transform and sway holder. So we will create a sway holder for the weapons like that. So sway holder, and that's that sway size and this. So go down here and into the if weapon.isHeld. We want to create some space for a function. So we want to create this mouse delta equals minus new vector 2, because we want the sway to actually follow our mouse, not to lead it. So minus vector 2 input dot get axis, and this will be mouse x, and input dot get axis mouse y, and that's the delta we need. And now for sway holder dot local position equals vector3 dot lerp sway holder dot local position is the start point, vector 0 is the end point, and sway smooth times time dot delta time, because delta time will always make it to run almost exactly on every frame rate. But sway holder and local position, and then we also want to add sway holder dot local position plus equals vector 3 like this, but we want to set mouse delta here times sway size like that, and that's sway. So save the script and go back to your editor. And once Unity has compiled your script once again, go to your weapon manager, and we want to set these variables. So some good settings for these are for sway size to be 0.004 and the sway smooth to be 25. And I feel like that is really good and it feels natural. So, but we also need to add the sway holder. So to do that, we want to create a new empty sway holder. We want to drag the weapon holder to be the child of the sway holder, and just drag the sway holder to sway holder, and like that. Yeah, the sway is done. So as you can see, the weapon will try to follow where you look. So if you look up, the weapon will also try to look up, and look left, right. And this will be better when we actually add scope in next, but for now, right now, it feels more natural and the weapon actually moves and follows. So as you can see, this weapon system is coming alive and actually feeling, and it's not only static, you can actually feel the changes and shooting and stuff. And that's the power of simple math. You can make everything look more natural and moving by making some really easy functions that just lerp or add positions. So now exit play mode, and now we want to add scoping. Maybe the best thing I could or you could add to a weapon system is scoping. So to do that, we need to actually edit both classes. So let's just go to the weapon first and scroll up to shooting and add public vector free scope position. And in here you want to go to update and else and just do scoping, and we want to also create a private bool scoping like that, and scoping equals input or equals input dot get mouse button 1, because we want to scope with the right button, and the player is not reloading. And now as we want to change the vector free lerp from vectors is 0 to, if we are scoping, then we want to lerp to scope position or scope position, and if we are not scoping, just back to the vector free.lerp or vector free.0, and then go down to your pickup function, and right here you want to add scoping equals false. So when you pick up, you don't want to scope. And then we also need to expose this public bool scoping and make this arrows and just write scoping. And what this will do is this is only a getter, so you can't set the weapon scoping, but you can only get it. So now save the weapon class and go to weapon manager. So in the weapon manager we want to add some public variables. So we want to add public float default FOV. So what's the default field of view? Like that. Public float scoped field of view, and we also want to add a public float FOV smooth, and that's it. We also need to add that's it for these variables, but we also need public camera player camera, or because we already have a player camera, just player cam for short. So that's it. We don't need any other variables. And down here where there's the update, we don't even want to put this anywhere else, but we want to put the camera player camera. And if you also want to change the actual camera FOV of the weapon camera too, so we want and if you want to do that, we want to make it an array and player cams. And now we need to loop over it. So player camera dot for each. So Rider will already make the like for each for me, but just copy this for each for me and add camera dot view, not player camera but player cams. It needs to be camera in player cams. So here camera dot field of view equals mathf dot lerp camera dot field of view is weapon held and held weapon dot scoping. So if we have a weapon in our hands and it is scoping, then we want to lerp to scoped for FOV. But if we aren't scoping, we want to put it default FOV. And now we also need to add FOV smooth times time.delta time. And that's scoping done. There's one thing we want to do, because as you remember, we have our crosshair, but when we scope, we use our iron sights. So we just want to add another public image, and that image will be the crosshair image And before this update loop, just put crosshair image dot get game object dot set active, and just copy this and change it that if weapon isn't held or the weapon isn't scoping, then set to true. So that's it. That's all you need to do for scoping, and save your script and go back to Unity. When Unity has compiled your scripts, you need to go to the assault rifle, and there's the scoped position. We won't touch that yet, but we actually need to go to Weapon Manager and see the default FOV, scoped FOV, and FOV smooth. So good settings for these are that default FOV is 70, scoped FOV is 40 actually, and the smooth is 11, because 11 is a good lerp, a smooth number for quick smooths. And crosshair image, you need to set this to crosshair, or just drag it from canvas right there. So now you have your weapon manager done like that. And well, you need to still drag your cameras. So weapon camera, main camera, right, that like that, and then weapon manager is done actually. But it's not done yet because scope position isn't set. So just copy assault rifle to your weapon holder, make it a child of it, reset the position and rotation so you can see that it's there, but we want to actually put the scoped position. So you for the effect, I would say just change the FOV to 40 so we can see how it will look like. And on the assault rifle, you want to set the X position to minus this amount so it's centered. Then we want to change the Y amount to something like 1.6, 1.7, and we want to actually set this to something else like 1.8. No, 1.9 is here, so 1.885, and now it's almost centered, 1.588. And then we also want to change the Z value like this. I would say this is too much, but this is okay. And we can also always test it. But now you want to set the position as scope position X, Y, and Z. And just reset this, overrides, apply, remove that assault rifle. And as you can see, the numbers are applied here too. And just reset your weapon managers, weapon camera and main camera's FOV to 70, because we don't need that right now. And that's it. All that I can see is that it's done. So when you play, you pick up a weapon, you can scope it like this, and you can see that the weapon follows you, or the scope follows you, and also when you shoot, you can see that it correctly zooms in and kickbacks. And if we throw when we are scoping, it doesn't matter. It just deactivates the scope because, well, yeah, it should do that. So right now you can see there's shooting and scoping, and that's all. It's that easy, as I always say, it is that easy. But if you don't want to actually change the FOV of the weapon, just go to the weapon manager and remove the weapon camera from here. So just set the size to 1 and drag in the main camera right there. And now when you play, you can see that the FOV is super small and the weapon is super small too, and it doesn't look good. So I would say you should change both of the FOVs, and you can always test some variables. So like scoped FOV 25, so it's this much scope like that, and it's a different, like this is a really scoped one. And you can also always throw the weapon. It has 1 ammo, you throw it, it has 1 ammo still, and if you shoot it, it will reload like that. And we can also add multiple weapons, so go back to the scene view and let's double click on assault rifle, and let's just spam it around, because it really doesn't matter where it is, because these are physics objects, so they will interact with the world correctly. Let's just add some assault rifles here, and let's rotate this one like this and just play it. And as you can see, the assault rifles drop like that, and you can pick that up. This has 25 ammo, will shoot, it has 16. Pick this up, it has 25, because it's modular, and it doesn't matter how many weapons are in the scene, it will work and it won't even lag. And that's why I like this system so much. It's really easily expandable, it looks really good for the effort you actually used, and it's not even that hard to make. It's really easy, and that's why I like it a lot. So yeah, so now you're done. There's nothing more to make. It has scoping and all. But as a brain exercise, let's try to set up the pistol as a weapon too. So I will show you how to create a new weapon from scratch. So let's copy the weapon script from assault rifle to pistol. Paste as new. We also want to add mesh colliders for all of these. Mesh collider. And we want to make it convex. So now everything has a mesh collider, and that's good, like that. And also there's a child of mag, and we also want to set that as mesh collider and convex, like that. Let's go to the pistol and just put the GFX colliders as these that we just created, and also the handgun itself. And weapon GFXs, let's just do the same, like that. Like that, and the weapon GFX layer is still the same, it doesn't change. And let's set the reset smooth to the same, and kickback force maybe more, because this is a tappable weapon. We only want to shoot when we click. Max ammo, let's set this to 10. Shots per second, maybe 5. Let's set 5. Animation time, pick up, that's a good number, I'll just keep that. Throw force, maybe 4. And throw extra force, maybe 10, because this is a lighter weapon. Then we want to change the reload speed to maybe 0.95, so it's faster to reload. We want the hit force to be less, because it's a pistol. The range could be the same. And now for the scoped position, let's just save the prefab settings and copy the pistol, put it on the weapon holder and just reset it. As you can see, it looks good here, but we also want to set up the scoped position, so just set the cameras to, was it 40? Yeah, I think we set it to 40 in the weapon manager. Yes, the scoped FOV is 40. Let's just put minus 0.49. That's not enough, minus 59, and that's center. And then let's drag it upwards. That's really good. That's just on the vertical, and let's just drag it in something like that. And that's it for the pistol. Just we already saved the overrides. Well, we didn't copy these values, we forgot, so just copy these values here. Overrides, apply all, delete the pistol, change some settings here to be 70, like that, so it's normal. Let's copy this handgun multiple times, because we can, there's nothing stopping us. Like that, and like that. And let's set one on top of, for some bling bling, and press play. And when you go, you can pick it up. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to add the layer of the pistol to weapon. So don't change the children, only this one, like that, and overrides the pistol. And now every pistol has the weapon layer. So now when we play and pick it up, you can see that you can pick it up, you can shoot like that, and you can also shoot with scoped, but this is more of a tapping weapon. So yeah. So that's it. You are done. It took some time, but wasn't it easy? I hope this video shows you that it isn't too hard to add complex or big things if you split them into segments or parts. But if you enjoyed this tutorial, you will enjoy other videos from me, and remember to subscribe to get notified when I post new game dev content. But that's it for this time. I hope you liked the video and see you next time. Bye.